Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 308. Your weekly get-together, we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and today we have some big news lined up. Not many stories, but some very important ones. Before we get into any of those, though, I want everyone here to know that this is broadcast live every Tuesday at Twitch TV/GamePoints, and you too can be part of the conversation by showing up during those streams. But if you can't show up live, you can also show up at youtube.com/GamePointsPC and comment down there, as well as on Rumble and BitChute as well. Regardless of where you're watching this at, be it live or later, feel free to join in the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into things. But however, I know I said without further ado, but we're going to have some ado on it. You know what, actually? No, we're not going to have any ado on it. But we are going to talk about how Square Enix is selling a good chunk of their catalog to Embracer Group. There are going to be more mergers and acquisitions being eyed by both Sony and Xbox, and a few other smaller stories as well. I was going to go into what I've been playing and all that stuff, but honestly, it's been the same stuff I've been for a while. So let's just go ahead and cut to the chase, shall we, and pick up right here with this press release from Embracer Group. Embracer Group enters into an agreement to acquire Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal, among other assets. To the actual press release here. By the way, I do want to know what your guys' opinion on this is. Let me know down below. I do think it's a good thing. I'll get into more details of it later. Unlike some other acquisitions that I've been very hesitant to say good or very hesitant to say are good, I do think this one's good, and I'll give my reasoning after this. Embracer Group AB has entered into an agreement to acquire the development studios of Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and its catalog of IPs including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and more than 50 back catalog games from Square Enix Holdings Company Ltd. In total, the acquisition includes almost 1,100 employees across 3 studios and 8 global locations. The total purchase price amounts to $300 million on a cash and debt-free basis to be paid in full at closing. The transaction is subject to various regulatory and other external approvals and is expected to close during the second quarter of Embracer's financial year of 22-23, essentially between July and September of this year, 2022. The acquisition brings a compelling pipeline of new installments from the beloved franchises of the original IPs, including a new Tomb Raider game. The acquisition builds on Embracer's mission of creating a leading independent global gaming and entertainment ecosystem. Embracer has been particularly impressed by the studio's rich portfolio of original IP, housing brands with proven global potential such as Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, as well as demonstrating the ability to create AAA games with large, growing fan bases. The portfolio of the IP consists of iconic franchises appreciated by critics and players alike. For example, the 2 original IPs, Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, have sold AAA units of 88 million and 12 million, respectively. Embracer sees an opportunity to invest in these franchises as well as additional acquired IPs such as Legacy of Kain, Thief, and other original franchises. So, why do I actually think this is a good thing? Normally, I tend to be dismayed at companies buying up other studios and gobbling them up and locking them away somewhere. But in this case, this isn't a small fish getting eaten by a bigger one. This is Square Enix spinning off their Western divisions to another company. So at best, it's a lateral move. Square Enix has been very down on their Western studios for a while now. They keep setting, in my opinion, unrealistic goals for sales figures. Tomb Raider was a disappointment. Deus Ex was a disappointment. Thief, admittedly, was a disappointment for everyone. But I think the big thing here is the fact that the Avengers really, really fucked over Square Enix hard. I'm willing to bet that game cost them millions of dollars. And the reason why Embracer was able to get these studios an IP, and it's not just the studio, it is the intellectual property as well, for essentially a song, $300 million, is because Square Enix is eager to divest from what they see as the albatross around their neck. And that is Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, Montreal, all that good stuff. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean those games are bad by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, Square Enix's Japanese studios haven't really been knocking it out the park either. lest we forget the disaster that was Final Fantasy XIV when it first launched, as well as the lackluster Final Fantasy XV, which way underperformed in sales for what Square Enix was hoping for. I think there's a bit of hubris on the side of Square, where they keep assuming that the Japanese studios, aka the home base, can do no wrong, and all of our problems must be because of those pesky Westerners and their inability to deliver on what we are hoping. I honestly feel that Square Enix had no idea what they had in their catalog and kept trying to force changes that weren't necessarily good for those games. There have been a bunch of behind-the-scenes stories and rumors that there was a very contentious relationship between the Western and Eastern sides of development. So I'm kind of glad to see that Square Enix is letting them go, and I'm glad to see Embracer taking them, because Embracer seems to just want to produce games for everything, which means we might actually see another Deus Ex. We might see another Legacy of Kain. The Embracer press release here even says, hey, there is a new Tomb Raider game coming. But the fact that they mentioned Deus Ex and the fact that they mentioned Legacy of Kain, to me, means they have every interest and every intention of resuming development on those franchises. What that might shake out to be, who knows? Deus Ex has had a couple of great games. In fact, the last two, Mankind Divided and Human Revolution, were excellent, as well as the original two Deus Ex games were great too. But they kind of had that shitty mobile game, which I think was called The Fall. And Legacy of Kain has been sitting in limbo since Defiance. They tried to do that weird multiplayer Nosgoth thing. It didn't really take off. There were rumors of Legacy of Kain Dead Sun floating around for a long time, which was supposed to finally wrap things up. That's long and buried. I would imagine that while you could probably continue Deus Ex from the Adam Jensen saga, Legacy of Kain would likely need to be having a complete reboot from the top down. It's been way too long since one of those games have come out. It's kind of irrelevant these days. Not that Deus Ex isn't also showing its age, but I think a Legacy of Kain reboot would make more sense than a Deus Ex reboot, when you can just make whatever the Adam Jensen trilogy, you can just finish that out. I am looking forward to seeing what Embracer does with what were essentially dead IPs in the Square Enix catalog. They were just sitting there gathering dust, doing nothing. And I would rather see a studio take a chance with something and have it fail than watch what we've seen so many times, where someone buys an IP and just sits on it and does nothing with it, because one day they might roll it back out again. So at least these studios are out of the clutches of Square Enix, a studio in itself that seems to be slimming down to, in my opinion, make it more attractive for a buyout. We're hearing rumors that the alleged company Sony was supposed to be acquiring a couple weeks ago, but nothing ever materialized on that, was supposed to be Square Enix. Whether this is them trying to spin off what they consider the fat to make it a little bit more of an attractive buyout to, be it Sony or Nintendo or whoever else might have an eye on it, that remains to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, however. There's no confirmation on any of that, by the way. That is pure speculation. But it seems to be that hubbub about the major studio Sony was going to be acquiring was in fact Square Enix. At least that's what some of the original rumor starters were saying today. Not everything that comes from those studios, however, is going to Embracer. It is important to note, according to this press release from Square Enix, that Just Cause, Outriders, and Life is Strange are staying under the Square Enix publishing umbrella. So it wasn't a 100% cleared out of the catalog of Western studios and Western ideas. Just Cause, Outriders, and Life is Strange tend to be more successful, it seems, at least in Square Enix's eyes. Specifically Outriders, which Square Enix is hungry for another live service game, I should say, and that seems to be doing well. And Life is Strange just had its True Colors sequel. Was it True Colors the sequel, or is there Life is Strange 2 coming? I don't recall off the top of my head. It's not a franchise I'm that much of a fan of. But those tend to be successful, at least according to Square Enix's eyes, and they are willing to hold on to those. So it's not a full catalog transfer. I do want to know exactly what IPs have gone to Embracer Group now. And I can't seem to find a list for the life of me anywhere. No one seems to have it. The press release from Embracer does say 50 titles. Let me see if I can get the exact wording on that here. More than 50 back catalog games. So 50 games. Now, how many IP is that over the cross of? How many different games are theirs. I can't find a listing of those exact same games anywhere. So if anyone happens to see that list somewhere, please link down below and let me know. But I'd be very curious to know exactly what Embracer Group is getting a hold of. Anyways, let me know what you all think about Embracer Group gobbling up this bit of Square Enix. Let me know if you think this is Square Enix slimming down to be a more attractive buy option to someone else. I do think that's the case, by the way. I think Square Enix wants to get gobbled up. And I think this might be part of that plan. Although for $300 million, I'm kind of shocked no one else stepped in and went, yeah, we'll buy that along with Square Enix. It just seems odd to me. But that it is hard to... It's hard to overestimate how much of a steal that is for all that IP. Even if they're dead franchises, that is one hell of a steal for names people recognize. Anyways, give me your thoughts and feelings down below. Moving on to the next story here. If you think that Square Enix might be slimming up for a merger or an acquisition, and if you think those are over after Xbox bought Bethesda and Sony picked up Bungie, well, think again, because a whole bunch more of them are coming. This is by way of Video Game Chronicle. Now PlayStation is also hiring for an acquisitions manager. This is fresh on the heels of an Xbox listing that popped up last week. So both the big boys in America, Sony and Microsoft, are starting to ramp up and looking for talent whose sole goal seems to be buying other studios, or at least investing in them. To the actual article itself. Sony is seeking a director to help it make acquisitions and investments in other companies in the game industry. As spotted by business analyst Robert Serrano, the director of corporate development listing, based in Sony's California office, says the successful applicant will mainly be involved in identifying potential future acquisition and investment targets. Sony Interactive Entertainment is seeking a highly qualified director of corporate development. SIE's corporate development team works closely with SIE's management team and is responsible for identifying inorganic growth opportunities through acquisitions, investments, or joint ventures, the ad reads. The team sources, evaluates, and completes transactions that are aligned with SIE's strategic priorities and drive significant long-term value for the company. The foundational work of the team involves developing markets and insights through strong internal and external relationships to identify attractive mergers and acquisitions and investment opportunities. Among the various skills sought by Sony, the successful candidate will need to have a proven track record of leading all parts of the end-to-end M&A process for both large and small transactions, including acquisitions, joint ventures, and investments. This role seems to be similar to an Xbox listing posted last week, which seeks a manager in the company's gaming and strategic department. Furthermore, while discussing the industry's consolidation earlier this month, influential figure Jeff Keighley suggested more major deals could be announced sooner rather than later. The Game Awards creator tweeted, quote, "Have heard from multiple people. As you might suspect, there are a few other big video game deals in the final stages of negotiations. It's going to be an interesting year." The year of the buyout continues. This is Xbox and Sony both starting to look for other companies to gobble up. Keep in mind, the Sony posting also specifically says investment opportunities. That could be related to the fact that Sony has tie-ins to Epic Games, for example. They own a chunk of, they have an investment in Epic Games, rather. They could be looking for more things like that. They could also be looking for smaller teams to pick up. Ubisoft, for example, is very much looking to be bought by someone. WB Games is looking to be sold by WB Discovery. So those are two big medium publishers. I'm trying to think of the exact word that I was looking for there, and it's not coming to me. But both Ubisoft and WB Games are on the block to be bought up. So you can imagine both of those will go sometime this year. Platinum is looking for a buyer. A lot of people are looking for buyers right now because the market is not healthy for video games. I know that seems weird to say, despite all the record profits they seem to be pushing every year, but these margins are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. What's happening is you'll have a studio make 10 games, of which one of those is massive, and the other 9 flop. That is unsustainable, and people are trying to get the hell out. That is my 2 cents on it. Take that for me what you will, but I think that's what's going on here. I think a lot of studios are going, oh fuck, oh shit, we're in trouble. pull the eject button and try to at least salvage something before it goes down. And then the bigger boys are looking at a fire sale of smaller studios and just gobbling up the talent and the IP, more importantly, to sandbag or hold on to or do whatever. We'll see how that shakes out. As far as the Xbox side of things, I think Sony has leeway to gobble up a couple more things before people start getting really fired up. But as far as the Xbox side goes, the Bethesda purchase and the Activision purchase are so massive that I think Microsoft might slow their roll on them, at least for a few months before making anything public, at least until the Activision Blizzard gets cleared by the FCC. Or the FEC, rather, not the FEC, the FCC. By the government. I can't really remember what the acronym is. Because they don't want to get slapped with antitrust. And Microsoft is already a favorite target for antitrust to begin with. So I can see them slowing down on their mergers and acquisitions, at least for a couple of months, until that danger of that deal falling through passes. Sony, however, has no such restrictions at the moment. At least no PR restrictions, I should say. So you'll probably hear some big moves from them over the next month or two, especially when the traditional E3 season approaches us. Yes, there's no E3 this year, but there is going to be things like Summer Game Fest. This is when all of your conference happenings. You're going to have your Xbox and Bethesda showcase. We'll talk about that later on. You're going to start seeing the new season kicking up very big and some huge announcements happening then. And I wouldn't be surprised if some more acquisitions were part of that. Let's move on to a completely different story here. This one is via gamesindustry.biz. Yuji Naka took Square Enix to court over unfinished Balan Wonderland. I actually find this kind of fascinating. If you want to take a look at the story, and links to all of our stories will be provided in the description down below, or over on our Discord server, which you can join if you want to read any of the news stories that I use in greater detail. To the article here. Long-serving development icon Yuji Naka has revealed details of a dispute between himself and Square Enix over the state of Balan Wonderland. The game launched in March last year to poor reviews, with Metacritic score as low as 36 on the Switch and peaking at 51 on the PlayStation 5. 3 months later, it emerged that he had left Square Enix. In a Twitter thread, he today claimed, today being Thursday of last week, he claimed that a business order removed him as the game's director around a year and a half before launch, and that he filed a lawsuit against Square Enix over the matter. When the trial was over and the business is no longer in effect, he has shared more details. According to Google's translation of his tweets, his removal appears to be around 2 disputes. One concerning the use of a YouTuber to play the game music in the marketing rather than using the original score, and the other over co-developer Arzest, submitting the game for release without fixing various issues. He added that games should be, quote, made by striving to make a good game until the end, and wanting games fans to enjoy it when they buy it, end quote, but commented that the tight schedule was set by Square Enix's producer, rather than himself. Naka also observed that the game's creators are often improving games right up until the last minute, citing an example of his days on the original Sonic the Hedgehog, when the game was changed to make Sonic survive any hit, so long as he had at least one ring in possession. Personally, I'm really sorry that I released the unfinished work Balan Wonderland to the world, he wrote. I wanted to think about the various things to put out in the proper form as an action game. I think Square Enix and Arzest are companies that don't care about games and game fans, end quote. A damning condemnation by one of the minds behind the Sonic Hedgehog franchise and the lead developer at one time on Balan Wonderland. That game, of course, was a train wreck when it came out. There's a myriad of glitches and issues with it. It was usually it's regarded as one of the worst games that year when it came out. And to hear this man come out and just lambaste Square Enix, saying, what was the exact quote here? Where is it? Oh, god damn it. Here he is. I think Square Enix and Arzest are companies that don't care about games and game fans. That is very strong for a man who has worked in the game business for decades at this point. And to have him coming out saying Square Enix essentially sucks and they're the reason why this was rushed out and he is sorry for the state of that game. Let's just say I'm even happier that Deus Ex and Thief and Legacy of Kain are no longer in their hands, and leave it at that. If you guys played Balan Wonderland and you think that Naka here has a point, please let me know. I did not play it myself. I just heard it was a disaster. I was tempted to play it. I remember playing Knights way back when on the Dreamcast when it first came out, and Balan Wonderland really reminded me of Knights. And I was kind of hoping to get that, and apparently it is just god-awful, which is a shame. Especially when you have someone with a long career like Naka here, who just... It sounds like he was taken off a project because he was having creative differences, and they just shat out whatever they had left. It's a damn shame. Another hard shift to a different story here, relating somewhat to the mergers and acquisitions theme of the today. Activision Blizzard stockholders approve proposed Microsoft transaction. So the deal between Microsoft and Activision isn't just you sign off a dotted line and it's done. It has to go through many, many steps. It has to get governmental approval. The shareholders have to approve it. This is one of those steps being taken out of, is that a bunch of the bigger shareholders, the people who have a bigger stake in the company, got together and overwhelmingly voted to approve the merger, to the press release itself. More than 98% of the shares voted at the special meeting were voted in favor of the proposed transaction of Microsoft. On January 18th, 2022, Microsoft announced plans to acquire Activision Blizzard for $95 per share in an all-cash transaction. It's important to note that's $95 per share because Activision stock is currently going for, I want to say high 70s to low 80s. Let me get you an exact number here real quick. Also important to note, I do have a very small amount of Activision stock, so just disclosure out the gate. It's currently going for $78.78 right now. Back to the article. In a quote from Bobby Kotick, who's the CEO of Activision Blizzard, he said the following. Today's overwhelmingly supportive vote by our stockholders confirms our shared belief that, combined with Microsoft, we will be in an even better position to create great value for our players and even greater opportunities for our employees, and to continue focus on becoming an inspiring example of a welcoming, respectful, and inclusive workplace. I can't read that sentence without laughing, given all the issues currently going on at Activision Blizzard King. But this is yet another hurdle cleared to allow the way for Microsoft to purchase Activision Blizzard. The reason why I wanted to bring up the $95 per share is that it is trading at $78.78 right now. So, and this is not financial advice, there has been a couple articles saying that Bloomberg, an article from Bloomberg, I was about to say Wall Street Journal, from Jason Schreier saying that Wall Street is actively betting against the merger because the price is only $78.78 compared to $95. He is incorrect in his assumption. The sentiment across Wall Street is not even majority betting against this happening. I don't think that it is anyways. The reason why it's not at 95 is, well, one, it's not 100% guaranteed to go through. But mainly, this deal isn't expected to fire off until next year, June 30th of 2023. That is a long time to tie up your cash in a company that has a set market value. Now, as things start to decline in the stock market and the outlook on things start to get exponentially worse, then maybe people might start then buying up Activision Blizzard shares, driving that price up from the 77 or 78, whatever it was I said earlier, closer to that $95 share. But to come out and say that Wall Street is betting against this deal going through is misguided at best. I think this is one of those examples of Schreier trying to pull his activism as opposed to journalism. Schreier wants the deal to fail, in my opinion, and he is trying to craft a narrative designed to make people think the deal is going to fail. I don't think it's going to, because there hasn't been a merger that the United States government hates in a while. There have been some things that have gotten nuked. I think the AMD deal, for example, when they were going to merge with someone else, got blown up. But it's typically rare. And I do think that this deal is going through. Once again, disclosure, I do have Activision stock, and I would benefit if they get gobbled up. So take for that what you will. But in my opinion, it's not that Wall Street is against this deal from happening or even think it's going to fail. It's just it's not going to have any action until next year. That's a very long time to tie up your money. But hey, I could be wrong. What the hell do I know? Moving on to the next story here as we go through these relatively quick, it sounds like Ubisoft is delaying the Prince of Persia remake to the article here. Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time remake is the name of the game. Sorry. I was like just reading it straight down rather than getting to the body because I was also trying to read other things. Hello, Prince of Persia fans. The development of the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake will now be led by Ubisoft Montreal, the very birthplace of the epic Sands of Time trilogy. By the way, it was originally being made by Ubisoft Pune, P-U-N-E, and Ubisoft Mumbai. It seems to have been taken from them now and given back to Montreal. The decision is an important step, and the team, building upon the work achieved by Ubisoft Pune and Ubisoft Montreal, will now take the time they need to regroup on the scope of the game to deliver your best experience for this remake of an all-time classic when it's ready. We want to thank you all for your continued support and patience throughout development. Rest assured, we will update you on the progress in a future update. What the hell is going on at Ubisoft? Prince of Persia, Skull and Bones, Beyond Good and Evil 2, the Ghost Recon debacle, where essentially that game has been more or less shut down with Wildlands. No word on Heartland, the Division sequel. Or not the Division sequel, the Division spinoff. There's some major issues going on with development at Ubisoft, and I think a lot of it might be that the Guillemot family just is piecing out. There are rumors that they're looking to be sold. They're eyeing people to gobble them up. So why would you have active development on a bunch of games when you're actively trying to sell? Why waste the money? Because a new studio could come in and just cancel it and go, we're not doing that anymore. Don't worry about it. There is something wrong in the upper echelons of Ubisoft that is affecting all of their games. I have no idea what it is. If it was just one studio that was being a troublemaker, that's understandable. But with Sands of Time, Skull and Bones, Beyond Good and Evil 2, there's something wrong here. And I can't place my finger on what it is. Hey there, Morathon. Good to have you. I need to mute myself for 1 second. Bear with me. There is something chaotic happening on Ubisoft. And I think it goes all the way to the top. And I think that is why they're trying to sell. I think that the people in the positions of power at this company have checked out. I think they're looking to cash out. And I think that they're just like, oh, whatever, give it a year. We won't even be our problem anymore. And I think that's what's going on. I think it's showing in the distinct drop in quality of Ubisoft titles over the past couple of years. And it's a damn shame, because this was, much like Capcom or Konami, this was a big player, and they still are, but their influence in the gaming industry has been diminished greatly over the past few years, as it just feels like they're lesser than they once were. And that's a shame. We have one more big story that I want to talk about today, and it is going to affect everyone, regardless if you play video games or not. From Video Game Chronicle, chip shortages will now continue until 2024, Intel CEO claims. Pat Gelsinger has previously told CNBC that he expected the issue, which has caused production issues and shortages for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and graphic cards, as well as cell phones, tablets, cars, everything, wouldn't end until 2023. However, in a new interview with CNBC's Data Check, Gelsinger has updated his prediction and now expects chip shortage to last until 2024. According to Gelsinger, shortages is likely to continue because key manufacturing tools aren't as readily available as hoped, meaning there aren't enough chips being made to supply demand. Also, keep in mind that the majority of the world's chips come from Taiwan. So if Taiwan goes up, if China gets froggy and decides to hop, that's going to cause even more chaos. There is a major weak link in the production of semiconductors and chips, and it all is starting to come to a head. And no one seems to be doing anything really to alleviate it. So, in my opinion, 2024 is an optimistic look, I wouldn't be surprised if this stretches on to 2025, 2026, unless for some reason people start making more factories, which involves getting the regulators to approve on it, which is just not something that's going to happen. So expect anything that uses any of these chips to start going up in price and becoming harder and harder to find. Hell, PlayStation 5s are still difficult to track down. Video cards don't even bother. And I am shocked that this is one of those things that have not alleviated itself yet. And like I said, God forbid if Taiwan gets invaded by China. So yeah, expect chip shortages, expect having difficulty to find tech of any kind to continue on through the next year and beyond. And I doubt it's going to be slowing down. And keep in mind, this is coming from the CEO of Intel. So I'd imagine he would know. We do have one upcoming event that I want to mention. This was announced, and we teased it a little bit earlier in the show. The Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase will be happening June 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. From the press release, it says that the show will feature amazing titles coming from the Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda, and our partners around the world. The Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase will include everything you need to know about the diverse lineup of games coming soon to the Xbox ecosystem, including upcoming releases to Game Pass on Xbox and PC. I would imagine that more than most previous shows, Xbox has a lot to prove here, because this is going to be the first big show they've done since the Bethesda deal. They have Starfield coming out this year, and beyond that, we really don't know much. We really don't know what the future holds for Xbox, Bethesda, or even like Sony and even Nintendo to a degree. Everyone's been playing their hands very close to their chest. So I'd imagine the expectations for the show are high. Higher than they normally even would be. And they were already high to begin with. So Xbox has a lot to lose if this show doesn't go off well. That said, it does not seem like this is going to be your typical live show that used to be seen at E3s. I'd expect this to be more like an extended Nintendo Direct lasting maybe an hour to 2 hours of just nonstop game reveals and trailers and what's going to be on Game Pass in the future as a company. That tends to do well for them, and hopefully we'll actually finally see some stuff coming out for these systems. With Starfield slated to be this year, and based on the details of the leak, which there is a small leak. I'm not going to get into details of the leak specifically on this show, but someone who has been verified to have been one time working for Bethesda came out with a bunch of details. It sounds like it is going to hit its, I believe, November 11th, 2022 release date, because it's just too sexy of a date to pass up. If that means they cut content, they cut content. But I do fully expect it to come out, so I expect a massive Starfield dump at this. Stealthy Twitch in chat says, hopefully they'll be showing some must-have titles. Everything in the coming soon category of the next 6 months for Xbox S and X isn't particularly exciting in your opinion. I agree. I don't think anything in the coming soon category for almost anyone right now is too exciting. We have no idea really what Sony has planned for the rest of the year. They talk about God of War Ragnarok, but where's the details on it? Nintendo really hasn't said what they're rolling out later this year. We know that they have Advance Wars Reboot Camp and the Fire Emblem Warriors game. I can't remember what it's fully called, but it's essentially the Fire Emblem Musu game, another one of those based on Three Houses. And then after that, really nothing. And PlayStation has the VR system in the wings somewhere, the VR2, but who knows either when that's coming. You have Microsoft with the new Gears game, but who knows really when that's going to come out. You have the Halo missing functionality for Infinite, let's just call it what it is, as well as apparently 6-month seasons. All the major publishers need to be dumping the information sooner or later because people are starting to get anxious for it. And I do think that this June 12th show, which is roughly just over a month from now, is going to be a massive info dump. And I think they're going to line you up for everything that's coming out this year as well as next year. I think now that the COVID issues are more or less being resolved, they really don't have an excuse anymore. They really need to knock this out of the park. They have just as much to win as to lose from this particular show. But we will find out come Sunday, June 12th. I don't know if I'm going to be streaming that or not, by the way. It is on a Sunday. I typically don't stream on Sundays, but it's also a huge show with big expectations, so I just might do a Sunday show. Best way to know, of course, is to follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff to tune in to know when I go live for it. That wraps up upcoming releases. We do have a few... that cups up upcoming events. We do have a few new releases as well to get into. First up, Trek to Yomi on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, coming out later this week. As a vow to his dying master, the young swordsman Hikori is sworn to protect his town and the people he loves against all threats. Faced with this tragedy and bound to duty, the lone samurai must voyage beyond life and death to confront himself and decide his path forward. This looks amazing. This is the black and white side-scrolling ninja game that was being shown off for about a year now or so. I think it's from Devolver. This looks excellent. It's strong Kurosawa vibes to it. Really digging just the art style to it. It is going to come free to Xbox Game Pass, speaking of Xbox, and I'll be playing it on stream sometime this week. Really looking to get my hands on it. Something else I'm also looking forward to get my hands on, Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, coming to the PC. Lead humanity's greatest weapon, the Grey Knights, in this fast-paced, turn-based tactical RPG. Root out and purge a galaxy-spanning plague in a cinematic, story-driven campaign using the tactics and talents of your own personalized squad of demon hunters. So essentially, it's 40k XCOM. It's the closest thing I can describe it as. However, I do take umbrage with this description. Humanity's greatest weapon are not the Grey Knights. They are the Astra Militarum. You know, the good old Imperial Guard. Doesn't matter how many Space Marines there are in the universe. There aren't enough of them to fight everyone everywhere. However, there are billions of poor humans to be thrown into the meat grinder. You want to talk about the heroes of 40k? It's the poor bastard conscript who gets tossed a gun and told, go fight the demon. That's the real hero of 40k. I'm looking forward to this. I'll also be playing it this week. It is the spiritual successor to Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate, a way, way old game. I want to say it's like 25 or 30 years old at this point. It was also a strategy game. I don't know how the XCOM-iness is going to really fit in here. I don't know how it's going to feel. I am a little worried, specifically from a sound design standpoint. From some of the trailers I saw, everything just sounds weak. And honestly, I'm over Nurgle. Give me some Slaanesh. Give me some Sneech. Nurgle's the one of the four Chaos Gods I'm the weakest on. And, I mean, my beloved Khorne. Let's not forget that. But I am still looking forward to playing this. I do think it's going to be a solid game. I am a huge, huge Warhammer 40k fan. So playing anything in that universe is already going to be weighted toward me liking it. And we'll see as it comes out later this week. Finally, you also have Citizen Sleeper coming out on the PC. This role-playing game in the ruins of an interplanetary capitalism involves you living the life of an escaped worker washed up on a lawless station at the edge of an interstellar society. Inspired by the flexibility and freedom of TTRPGs. I don't know what a TTRPG is, by the way. Tactical turn? I don't know. Explore the station, choose your friends, and escape your past and change your future. The reason why I brought Citizen Sleeper up is because it is the same people that made In Other Waters, which was a very text-heavy adventure game that I played on stream sometime last year, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I would ever stream it due to the amount of just text reading there is in it, but if you are looking for something that has a very engrossing story and you don't mind slow gameplay, I highly recommend In Other Waters. And given that the pedigree of this Citizen Sleeper is that game, I'll probably be taking a look at this as well. Maybe not streaming it, but definitely giving it a look. Anyways, that wraps up new releases, which means that does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 308, and thank you all for showing up. If you like what you see here and you want to support the stream, you know what to do. Likes, bits, follows, subs, all that good stuff. There's a Discord you can join, link provided down there. We'll also find all the stories that I went over today as well. You can follow the show on Twitter at CapitalistPig or at GamePoints PC. You can follow myself at CapitalistPig21. And of course, we'll be streaming the various games throughout the week on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that's it. Thank you all for showing up. And until next Tuesday, we're out of here.